Chapter 38, Golden Cobra. Ghosts don't scare me, Jay said as they kept walking into the darkness with only the sputtering flashlight to light their way. Hauntings aren't a big deal. Oh yeah? What would you know about that? Asked Carlos, trying to get his torchlight zapped to work. But his phone was dead. There had been no time to charge it back on the Isle of the Lost. A ghost might try to scare you by rattling his chains or slamming a door shut. But there's nothing to be afraid of. They're basically made of air, said Jay, still following the faint sound of rattling. Why do I get the feeling, said Carlos, that someone is trying to convince himself of something? Because someone is totally scared but won't admit it, said Mal, sneaking behind Jay and yelled in his ear, Boo! Jay jumped. Okay, so I might be a little freaked out, but it takes a real man to admit his fears. Oh, really? Said Mal with a laugh. It seems to me that just a moment ago you were telling us that ghosts were nothing to worry about. So what? Ghosts are the worst, okay? I just wish we could leave this cave already, Jay said. The howling grew even louder. Carlos plugged his ears and Evie did the same. Maybe the ghost is deaf, Mal said. Why else would it be shrieking at the top of its lungs? Jay sighed. Come on, let's get this over with. He started to walk faster, but stopped when they reached a sharp corner where the passage was a bit wider. The wind whistled through it, howling and screeching. So it's not a ghost after all, said Jay. It's just the wind flying around these corners. I guess it's like a big flute that plays a note each time the wind blows through. Look at Jay getting poetic on us, said Evie, as Carlos and Mal tried to follow Jay into the next passage. But the same force that had pushed Jay away from the tree earlier was acting against them now. Wait, said Mal, we can't get any farther. Jay turned around to see his three friends standing at the corner. I'll meet you back inside. Don't worry about me. I've got this cobra. Okay, said Mal, scowling. I guess we don't really have a choice. Remember what Yensid said, advised Evie. Good luck, man, said Carlos. Jay promised he would see them soon, and then turned to face the empty tunnel on his own. It wound deeper and deeper into the earth, and the flashlight finally gave out, leaving him in darkness. The howling wind was still kind of scary, but he reminded himself that there was nothing supernatural about it. At last, he saw a sliver of light at the end of the tunnel, and when he reached it, he discovered it was the entrance to a hidden chamber. And not just any chamber, but one piled high with gold and treasure. A mountain of shimmering coins reached to the ceiling, so bright it cast its own light around the cavern. Jay had seen such treasure only once before, when he was in the Cave of Wonders in the Forbidden Fortress. This isn't real, he said. Oh, but it is, a voice hissed in the middle of all that gold, and Jay looked up to see the golden cobra with its magnificent hood raised around its face, slowly unraveling from a basket. All this is real, and it could be yours. How? Asked Jay, staring straight into the red eyes of the snake. I will be your servant, the cobra told him. I serve the master of the sand. Jay was transfixed. You see that curtain behind you? Jay turned to see a rich, shining tapestry hanging over the passage he had just come through. Leave your friends behind and pass through that doorway with me, and you shall have all the riches you desire. Jay blinked, and suddenly he was seated on a raised platform, wearing a white turban on his head. He was not in the cave at all. He was the Sultan of Agrabah, the richest man in Oregon. Next to him were piles of gold and every kind of precious jewel. A feast had been set before him with all his favorite dishes, and the people surrounding him bowed, fear in their eyes. This was what his father had always wanted, his true place in Oregon, above everyone, above everything, wealthy beyond reason, with all the riches of the world at his feet. All the riches of the world. He blinked against the vision and returned to the cave, staring at the mountain of gold and the red eyes of the cobra. What had Yensid told him before they had set off? The riches of the world are all around you. Jay didn't need much. He wasn't like his father, ruthless and cold. He just liked to play tourney and hang out with his friends. He enjoyed a good game and good times. Good friends. He thought of how Mal had stood up to her mother rather than let Maleficent hurt any of them, and how Carlos could always be counted on to help with math can be magic homework, and how Evie would always drop whatever she was doing to listen to him overanalyze an opposing team's play. He had a great life, and he had wonderful friends. He was already rich beyond measure. The professor was right. The riches of the world were all around him. No, he said with a smile. No, the cobra hissed and flicked its long tongue. I'm taking you back to Ordon so you can be destroyed. The cobra hissed and spat, venom arcing at Jay. He dodged the poison and captured the snake with his hand and held it tightly in his grip. The cobra thrashed and hissed, but Jay did not flinch or cower. You will submit to my will. You are mine to command, and I command you to heal. With those words, the cobra stiffened and froze, turning into a simple wooden stick. When Jay finally emerged from the cave, he found his 3 friends waiting for him outside. Carlos was reading a book he brought. Mal was sketching in her journal, and Evie was combing her hair. That's the golden cobra? Asked Mal, noticing the humble stick Jay was holding. It was, said Jay with a triumphant smile. Okay, where next? In answer, the cave behind them began to rumble and disintegrated, just like the tree had done earlier. An outline of a door appeared on one of the rocks that had marked the cave's entrance. Carlos grabbed the knob and yanked the door open, blasting them with cold air. Let's go, he yelled. The 3 of them followed, Jay using his stick to hold the door open for the girls. When they reached the other side, after all they had experienced so far, they were only a little surprised to find that they were in a modern city. It was time for Carlos to find his mother's talisman.